Have you ever gone to bed thinking you're doing everything right for your health, only to wake up more tired, more swollen, and running to the bathroom one more time at night? And what if I told you that one of the foods you trust most, one you might be eating several times a week for your heart, could be quietly pushing your kidneys closer to failure without a single warning sign? I'm Dr. Mark Ellis, and after years of working with patients across the United States, I've seen this mistake far too often. People believe they're making a healthy choice, yet their lab numbers worsen, their blood pressure creeps up, and their kidneys are forced to work harder every single day. Kidney damage doesn't usually announce itself with sharp pain. It builds silently, meal by meal, until one day the question is no longer, what should I eat? But how much kidney function have I already lost? But here's the part most people never hear. You don't have to give up the foods you enjoy, and you don't have to live in fear of every bite. The solution isn't extreme diets or expensive treatments. It's knowing exactly what to choose, how to prepare it, and when it truly helps or harms your kidneys. And in this video, I'm going to show you how a simple change can make a powerful difference before it's too late. When people talk about healthy fish for the kidneys, tuna is often the first name that comes up. Lean, high protein, easy to cook, and widely available. But here's the uncomfortable truth most people never hear. Tuna can either support kidney repair or silently accelerate kidney damage. And the difference comes down to how and how much you eat it. I remember a patient in his early 60s, let's call him Mr. H. His blood sugar was fairly controlled, but his kidney numbers kept slipping. Creatinine slowly rising. eGFR slowly falling. When I reviewed his diet, one thing stood out. Every evening, like clockwork, he ate canned tuna, sometimes 2 cans. Doctor, he told me, it's protein, no carbs, good for diabetes, right? He wasn't wrong, but he also wasn't safe. From a scientific standpoint, tuna does offer real benefits for kidney health when used correctly. Tuna is rich in high-quality protein that's easy to digest, meaning it produces fewer nitrogenous waste products compared to fatty or heavily processed meats. This matters because excess protein waste is one of the biggest burdens on weakened kidneys. Even more importantly, tuna contains omega-3 fatty acids, which studies show can reduce kidney inflammation, improve endothelial function, and slow the progression of chronic kidney disease by reducing oxidative stress. But here's the part most people miss, and this is where things get dangerous. Tuna is also one of the highest risk fish for sodium overload and heavy metal exposure, especially mercury. Canned tuna, in particular, can contain 300 to 400 milligrams of sodium per serving, sometimes more. For someone with early kidney disease, that amount, repeated daily, can worsen fluid retention, raise blood pressure, and quietly damage the delicate filtering units of the kidneys. And then there's mercury. Large fish like tuna accumulate mercury over time. Research has shown that frequent tuna consumption can raise mercury levels enough to interfere with kidney detox pathways and even worsen insulin resistance. Exactly what diabetics and kidney patients are trying to avoid. Mr. H wasn't eating tuna occasionally, he was eating it every day. Once we reduced his intake to twice a week, switched to low-sodium options, and adjusted portion size, his kidney markers stabilized within months. So here's the rule that protects your kidneys. Tuna is a tool, not a staple. Choose fresh or frozen tuna over canned whenever possible. Limit portions to about the size of your palm. Avoid eating it at night when kidneys are already under repair stress. And never assume that lean protein automatically means kidney safe. But knowing this still isn't enough, because there's another fish many people trust even more than tuna, and when eaten the wrong way, it may stress your kidneys even faster. After tuna, most people immediately think, okay, then salmon must be the safest choice. And I understand why. Salmon has been crowned the gold standard of healthy fish for years. Doctors recommend it. Nutritionists praise it. Social media calls it a superfood. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Salmon can heal your kidneys or overload them, depending on one critical mistake most people make without realizing it. A few years ago, I worked with a woman in her late 50s. She did everything right. No fried food, no red meat. She ate salmon 4 to 5 times a week. Yet her lab results told a different story. Phosphorus creeping up, potassium borderline high, and nighttime urination getting worse. She looked at me and said, "But doctor, salmon is anti-inflammatory. Everyone says it's good for kidneys." They weren't lying. They just didn't tell her the whole story. From a scientific perspective, salmon truly is powerful. It's one of the richest natural sources of omega-3 fatty acids, EPA, and DHA, compounds shown in clinical studies to reduce kidney inflammation, lower triglycerides, and improve blood vessel function. In patients with early chronic kidney disease, omega-3 intake has been associated with slower decline in eGFR and reduced protein leakage in urine. That's not hype, that's real data. But salmon also carries a hidden burden many kidney patients never account for: phosphorus and potassium. A single serving of salmon can contain over 250 milligrams of phosphorus and significant potassium levels. For healthy kidneys, that's manageable. For weakened kidneys, repeated excess can accelerate mineral imbalance, trigger bone loss, and increase cardiovascular strain. And here's the real trap. Salmon is so healthy that people eat larger portions, more frequently, and often at dinner when kidneys are already under repair stress. There's another issue no one talks about enough: how salmon is prepared. Smoked salmon, cured salmon, and restaurant salmon are often loaded with sodium, sometimes more than canned tuna. That sodium doesn't just raise blood pressure, it forces your kidneys to retain water, increasing filtration pressure and long-term damage. The very fish meant to protect your kidneys becomes a silent stressor. So what's the kidney-safe way to use salmon? Think precision, not abundance. 2 to 3 servings per week, not daily. Portions no larger than your palm. Prefer steaming, baking, or light pan searing with herbs instead of salt. And timing matters more than most people realize. Lunchtime or early afternoon is far gentler on the kidneys than late evening meals. When used this way, salmon becomes a therapeutic food, not a metabolic burden. But here's the problem. Most people don't stop at salmon. They assume all white fish must be safer, and that assumption leads directly to the next mistake many kidney patients make. Because knowing how to eat salmon correctly still isn't enough, there's another fish that looks harmless, is cheaper, more common, and yet can quietly strain your kidneys even faster if you're not careful. After salmon, many people breathe a sigh of relief and say, "All right, I'll switch to white fish. Tilapia is light, cheap, and easy on the kidneys." And on the surface, that sounds reasonable. Tilapia doesn't look threatening. It's not oily, not salty, not heavy. But this is exactly why tilapia becomes dangerous. Not because it's obviously bad, but because it feels too safe, and people stop paying attention. I once met a retired man in his early 60s who had early-stage kidney disease. He proudly told me he ate tilapia almost every day. Fried, pan-seared, sometimes breaded. "Doctor, it's white fish," he said. "No fat, no problem." Yet his inflammation markers were rising, his blood pressure was harder to control, and his kidney fatigue kept getting worse. The fish wasn't the villain by itself, but the way it was used quietly worked against him. From a nutritional standpoint, tilapia is a lean protein, which sounds good for kidneys. It's relatively low in potassium and phosphorus compared to salmon. That's the upside, and it's real. But here's the downside most people never hear. Tilapia contains very low omega-3s and relatively higher omega-6 fatty acids, especially in farm-raised fish. Multiple studies have shown that diets skewed heavily toward omega-6 without enough omega-3 can promote chronic inflammation. And inflammation is one of the fastest accelerators of kidney decline. In simple terms, tilapia feeds your muscles, but it doesn't protect your kidneys the way people assume. It fills you up without providing the anti-inflammatory shield that fish like salmon or sardines offer. That means if tilapia becomes your main fish, eaten frequently, your kidneys lose a crucial layer of defense, even though your plate looks clean. Then there's the preparation trap. Tilapia absorbs oil like a sponge. Frying it, coating it in batter, or cooking it with salty sauces turns a neutral protein into a metabolic stressor. Excess oil increases oxidative stress. Excess sodium raises filtration pressure inside the kidneys. Over time, this combination quietly erodes kidney resilience, especially in people with diabetes or hypertension. So how do you use tilapia safely? Think of it as a supporting player, not the star. 1 to 2 times per week is enough. Pair it with anti-inflammatory elements, olive oil in small amounts, garlic, turmeric, or leafy greens. Steam or bake it instead of frying. And never assume white fish automatically means kidney protective. Tilapia isn't poison, but it's incomplete. It gives protein without protection. And if you rely on it too much, your kidneys pay the price, slowly, silently, and without obvious warning signs. But knowing this still isn't enough, because there's another white fish that looks similar, costs slightly more, and yet behaves completely differently inside the body. And this next one might be the most kidney-friendly fish of all, if you understand why. After tilapia, this is where things quietly change, because there is one fish that doesn't look impressive, doesn't get hyped on social media, and rarely shows up in superfood headlines. Yet in clinical nutrition, it's often considered one of the safest proteins for fragile kidneys. That fish is fresh cod. Cod doesn't have the glamour of salmon or the convenience of tilapia. It's plain, mild, almost boring, and that's exactly why it works. In my practice, cod is the fish I recommend most often to patients whose kidneys are already under strain. People with declining eGFR, fluid retention, or stubborn nighttime urination that just won't improve. I remember a woman in her late 50s, pre-diabetic, terrified of protein because she'd been told it would destroy her kidneys. We started with cod twice a week. No frying, no sauces, just steamed cod with herbs and a little olive oil. 3 months later, her labs stabilized. Not dramatically, but consistently. And in kidney health, steady is powerful. From a scientific standpoint, cod is exceptionally low in phosphorus and potassium compared to most fish. A typical serving provides high-quality protein without overwhelming the kidney's filtration capacity. Even more important, cod is naturally low in fat, which reduces oxidative stress and inflammation, 2 hidden drivers of kidney scarring over time. Here's the key difference most people miss. Cod doesn't stimulate the kidneys. It doesn't spike filtration pressure. It doesn't demand aggressive waste removal. It simply supplies clean protein and steps out of the way. For aging kidneys, that's a gift. But cod is not magic. Its strength lies in how it's used. Cod becomes harmful when people treat it like fast food, deep-fried, salted, or paired with processed carbs. That strips away its advantage and turns it into just another burden. The solution is simple but strict. Fresh, not salted. Baked or steamed, not fried. Herbs instead of sauces. If you're watching this, ask yourself, have you been choosing foods that excite your taste buds but exhaust your kidneys? Or foods that quietly support them without drama? Leave a comment if you've ever been confused about which protein is actually safe, because this confusion is more common than you think. Cod teaches us an important lesson. Kidney-friendly eating isn't about extremes. It's about low stress, low load, high consistency. And when you get that right, the kidneys finally get room to breathe. But even cod has a limit, because there is one final category of seafood that people either overuse or fear completely, and that mistake alone can decide whether kidneys stabilize or spiral faster than expected. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's this. Your kidneys are not fragile by nature. They're resilient organs that respond incredibly well when you give them the right conditions. You haven't failed them. Many of the habits that strain kidneys were learned with good intentions. And the fact that you're here right now means you're already taking a powerful step toward protecting your health. You don't need to change everything overnight. Start small. Be mindful of how often you eat certain proteins, how they're prepared, and how your body feels afterward. Pay attention to patterns, not perfection. And most importantly, don't face kidney health with fear. Face it with understanding and consistency. If this video helped clarify things for you, I encourage you to save it so you can come back and review these principles whenever you plan your meals. And if you care about protecting your kidneys, balancing blood sugar, and aging with strength and clarity, subscribe to this channel. I share evidence-based medical knowledge here, explained simply, so you can make informed decisions without confusion or panic. Remember, kidney decline doesn't happen overnight, and neither does recovery. But every better choice slows damage, preserves function, and buys your body time to heal. And as long as you're willing to learn and adjust, there is always hope for your kidneys to work more smoothly, more quietly, and for many years to come.